Good day, everyone. We, the reporters, will present to you the topic Evolution of Philippine Taxation during the Taxation in Spanish Philippines and Taxation under the Americans. But before anything else, let's first define the tax law. In the modern system, tax law in the Philippines covers national and local taxes. National taxes refer to national internal revenue taxes imposed and collected by the national government through the Bureau of Internal Revenue or BIR. And local taxes refer to those imposed and collected by the local government. Paying the right tax is an obligation of all income earners in the Philippines. The tax collected by the BIR will then be used as funds of the government to carry out its duties. But before this system is implemented, the modern time Philippines taxation undergo evolution, especially in taxation in Spanish Philippines and taxation under the Americans. Taxation in Spanish Philippines. Even before the encroachment of the Spaniards, the Philippines had an abundance of natural resources, but our ancestors were primarily involved in a subsistence economy. And while the payment of tribute or taxes, also known as buhis or handog, or the obligation to provide labor services to the datos in some early Filipino communities in the Philippines may resemble taxation. It is essentially different from the contemporary meaning of the concept. The Spaniards had trouble collecting money through tribute due to the distressed nature of the towns, which they rectified by inventing the concept of reduction by establishing pueblos. Later on, the encomenderos, who were rewarded by the Spanish crown for their efforts, will manage the settlements. Filipinos who had previously relied on agricultural production for livelihood had to increase payment demands, and a more intensive agricultural system had to be implemented. The Manila-Capolo trade was founded by galleons during the end of the 16th century, allowing the Spaniards to ensure that European presence would be maintained. This boosted the Philippine economy and strengthened Spanish power throughout the country. Tax collection was still low, and the subsidy from Spain would be required through the Situado Real, which was carried from the Mexican treasury to the Philippines by galleons. This subsidy ended after Mexico gained independence in 1820. In 1884, the payment of tribute was discontinued and replaced by a pool tax collection via certificate of identification known as Cedula Personal. This is needed of all residents, must be carried while traveling, and must be purchased separately. This system, on the other hand, placed a tremendous burden on the peasants while being simple for the wealthy. However, as a result of this, revenue collection expanded significantly and became the primary source of the government revenue. The Chinese in the Philippines were likewise forced to pay a higher discriminatory cedula than the Filipinos. In 1878, two new direct taxes were imposed on urban income. The Urbana tax is imposed on the annual rental value of urban real estate, while the Industria tax is imposed on salaries, dividends, and profits. In the 19th century, when economic expansion was exponential, indirect taxes on exports and imports were implemented to raise more money. The colonial government also profited from monopolies such as the sale of the stamp paper, the manufacture and sale of whiskey, cockpits, and opium, but tobacco was the most important of the official monopolies, beginning in 1781 and ending in 1882. Forced labor was a feature of Spanish colonial taxation on defending the Philippines that was demanded of the Filipinos. It demonstrates its utility in defending their territory during the galleon trade. Male Filipinos were forced to serve in the polo system, which resulted in the decrease of population in the 17th century. Later, The polos and services got lighter and they were organized at the local level. The taxation under the Americans. American period taxation in the Philippines started in 1898, ended in 1946. The payment of this tax would merit the issue of a residence certificate. Corporations were also subject to the residence tax. However, persons who are ineligible to pay the residence tax. Cedula, or the residence certificate. This is a legal identity document in the Philippines. A person is required to present a cedula when he or she acknowledges a document before a notary public. In this period, people must take an oath of office upon election or appointment to a government position. In line with the Philippinization policy of then U.S. President McKinley, Filipino collectors were appointed. The first three BIR collectors were Wenceslao Trinidad, Juan Posadas Jr., and Alfredo Yatao. In May 1921, by virtue of Act Number 299, the real estate, license and cash divisions were abolished and their functions were transferred to the city of Manila. As a result of this transfer, the Bureau was left with 5 divisions, namely Administrative, Law, Accounting, Income Tax, and Inspection. During the Spaniards' leadership in the country, they gave superiority in collecting taxes on Filipinos by implementing various systems in the Philippines. And some of the implemented rules in all systems has no proper references and even resulted to corruption, forcing the citizen to provide labor and giving unequal privileges is also visible. Based in our research about taxation during the American period, the one that managed the Philippines was the American soldier, and they tend to continue the Spanish system of taxation. However, the Spanish system was very regressive, so the poor people at that time stays the same and the rich become richer because of the outdated system. In 1904, the Americans settled the tax problem with the Internal Revenue Law. These are the source of revenue, the tobacco and alcoholic beverages at the time, the banks, they still have the cedula, the insurance, the deforestation, the mining, of course the occupation and business. However, at the time making cedula pays as double and lottery are not enough to increase the government revenue. That's all. Thank you for watching and listening.